Welcome to the after party. Welcome to the after party. Did you bring some snacks and treats?
Yes, it did.
I hope you got me something to eat.
Maybe.
Welcome to the after party. Coming to the after party.
Right now.
I've been waiting here all day to act like a fool this way. Welcome to the after party. Join us in the after party.
Right now.
Oh, chocolate and dabbing, maybe some microphone dabbing at the after party.
With DJ Eric Payton.
And Canada graphs. Actually, that part got cut off because of the fade, and it says Canada graphs at the end there. So
That's why I haven't been here all these times, is because you cut me out of the song.
because you're missing from the song. Anyway, yeah, no, that was so we have the two versions. I still have both of them on here. We have the original version that has the Canada graphs part in it, but that's the part that doesn't have Paigey singing in the background. And then we have that version that does have Paigey, but for some reason it cuts off at StreamYard, cut it off at the end, so it doesn't have the Canada graphs part. Because StreamYard did this thing where it started fading the beginning and ends of videos, so you lose the last like 2 or 3 seconds of a video. It's kind of funny. Anyway, maybe I'll remix it when we come back in the beginning of the year and add everybody in with DJ Eric Paigey, Canada graphs, 3Dub, Darren, and just put everybody's name on it. That'd be pretty funny. Anyway, everyone, welcome to the stream. I actually forgot the after party branding. I have too much branding. I have too many different podcasts. They all end up being the same thing. So it's like, why am I doing a million different names? Anyway, there we go. Anyway, we have Canada graphs here today, which is great. We haven't had him back on in a while, and I thought this was a great time to bring him back in because we're going to be talking about the entire season of Superman and Lois and DCTV in general. And this will be the last after party of 2024. We'll return in 2025. I think Daredevil's the first show that isn't March. That the first TV show that comes back. Daredevil. I think it might be.
I mean, you have like Spider-Man and stuff like that, but I feel like that's going to be the biggest one.
Daredevil's like live action though, right? It's the first.
Right.
Live
Well, didn't you
action
want to do one for your most highly anticipated favorite show of 2024 going into 2025 on Max, the animated hit series Creature Commandos? That for some reason made its first episode free on YouTube.
Yeah. Before we get into Superman and Lois, when you sent me that was weird. So it's now free to watch on YouTube.
I mean, I think a lot of people actually do that, like especially on like a lot of these like kid networks would do that, where it's like, okay, here's the first episode to try and get you hooked, and then they try and get you to go on the actual streaming service to watch the rest of the season or whatever.
I'd love to see 6-year-old Jimmy's reaction to going, oh, the new animated show, they did this with SpongeBob and Friends. Let me look at this Creature Commando.
Let's see. I'm trying to see. It was Threads, right? Someone, was it Gamer Man? You tagged me in something on Threads. Let me look over there and see what it is. So while I look that up, does anybody want to jump in and give their thoughts on where they're at now that we've had some time to think about Superman and Lois? Like, how are we feeling about it? Because this is the end. Like, this is the last show we're going to get on network television. We've had a couple of weeks to really think about it. Has anybody changed their opinions about the season? Have you started to feel better about it, worse about it? What about Superman and Lois in general? Was there anything that didn't happen that you think it was a missed opportunity for the show? Anybody can jump in and start.
Darren?
No, I mean, I can start. No, like I didn't know who was going. I adored the final episode in this final season. Like, I think I said a couple times on here, like, again, there's a couple things I would have liked to have seen. Obviously, they were cut short by at least 20 to 30 episodes that they wanted to do. There's a lot of more stories I would have loved to have told, like, to have been able to tell. That goes for the Arrowverse as a whole. Like, there's more stories that there was out there that we wanted to see. But, like, I will say, I am so happy this is kind of the ending mark for this era of DCTV. I had a very bitter taste in my mouth after the Flash ended. I did not like that final season. That just I was not a fan. There was like 2 episodes out of that, and I thought the ending was just really rough. So I think that this being the ending, this kind of like the cap to everything in this entire era. I think is like every video that you look up for Superman Lois in a moment is like how did CW do this? Like I can't believe this is doing this. Like this is the best version of Superman. Blah blah blah. Like that is the legacy that we are leaving this, and I think that's a really cool thing.
Okay. Canada Graphs, you weren't here for our discussion. Do you have any thoughts on this season of Superman and Lois now that it's over?
Oh, I mean, incredibly solid. I mean, it is a rare thing in the. I'm putting it in the Arrowverse. Deal with it, showrunner. It is a rare thing in the Arrowverse to get a proper ending to a show.
Yeah.
I think it and Arrow are the only ones that really can say that. And I think Arrow's was very good, but I think Superman and Lois's was. I said something, and I think you may have said it in your stream. There are little things maybe you can nitpick away, like scratch a little bit off a perfect 10 here, but it's so close to a 10, you just call it a 10.
Yeah.
Like, is it a 9.996 or whatever? But you get it.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Yeah. 3Dub, you have any different thoughts, or you still sort of feel the same way you did last time we talked about Superman and Lois?
I kind of wish they did more with obviously I've always said this. I kind of hate when heroes die as a conclusion. But I get it through the story wise, but as like a fan of Superman, it's kind of hard to see your hero die. So but besides that, yeah, Flash season 9 was terrible. 2 episodes made it like only a 2-episode season out of 10.
So you're only counting the 2 episodes at the end?
Yeah.
Like
9 and 10. 9 and 10 is the only ones. Besides that, I had a fun ride with the Arrowverse. Obviously, I was disheartened when season 2 came out of Superman and Lois, where they basically drive the wedge between them and the rest of the Arrowverse, when the show itself was supposed to be on Earth Prime.
Yeah.
So it
go ahead.
It cut my hopes up a little bit, like I had like expectations. I get like recasting was a big part of Superman and Lois, which I understand. Like you can't always get the same actor, so I thought, like just like how they did Jonathan, where they recasted him and they didn't make it into like a new universe. They just like kept going. So that's why I thought they were going to do with all the recasting of like Sam Lane and
Lucy.
Well, Lucy stayed the same.
I know, that's why I said that.
Morgan Edge was also different.
Yeah.
Morgan Edge was different. That's the other one. But she wasn't really Morgan Edge, though.
No, that was ironic because they didn't recast Lucy, but they recast Sam.
Yeah.
So,
That was one of their weird blunders.
Yeah. Paigey, any thoughts about any criticisms of it, I guess, since the last time we talked? Have you thought more about it, or?
No, because I guess with the parameters they had and stuff, they pretty much did it as best as they could. I don't think you can really criticize with everything, the limitations they had, whether it came down to budget, resources plays into budget, but and just the amount of episodes and stuff like that. The weakest episode of the season is the wedding episode, and I still think that's a pretty damn good episode.
Yeah.
So they turned something that would, maybe even previous seasons, people would have scoffed at and gone, "Ugh, not this." Like, would we, still
okay, so would we say overall, collectively?
Like you were dancing at the end of it. There was that live footage of you dancing to Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I was. It was getting jiggy with it. But the collectively looking back at all of the shows that we had in DCTV, and I'm not counting Smallville 3Dub, but all the DCTV shows that were Arrowverse related shows, or stuff that wasn't Arrowverse initially, like Supergirl and Black Lightning.
Anything that premiered after Arrow, I count as Arrowverse.
Yes. Naomi, Gotham Knights.
Actually, excluding those two.
Yeah. I think if you're looking at a final season for a show, whether they planned it or didn't plan it, like something like Legends or Batwoman, I think this might be the most consistently good show in terms of like a final season
Mhm.
out of all of the shows that we had. And that includes Arrow, because I feel like Arrow snuffed it up in the back half. It started out really strong and then it snuffed it up.
If Arrow was the same as its opening, like 3 or 4 episodes the entire way through,
we'd have a
Arrow's
different
probably better.
conversation.
Yeah.
It'd be a different conversation.
I also
I would
think
say-
Arrow struggled in that final season because they had the flash forward mixed in
Yep.
there.
Because they were trying to set up that spinoff, and that they were
Yeah.
so devoted to
Yep.
that, they didn't give the show a proper ending.
Any
which
day now we'll get that.
It's good to know that it was really worth it. We've seen the prosperity from that
Yeah.
time spent. Yeah.
Season
I
4
think-
comes out next year.
I actually think that
Almost like
Superman and
building a
Lois for me-
snowman inside and turning on the heater. But anyway.
Also, I think in the modern era of like episode lengths and seasons and play like watchability on return viewings, I actually think Superman and Lois is also stronger in that department. Like you're going back through the 4 seasons, not the never mind. So the 4 seasons of the show, you go back through that. It's easier to get through, and I think it is a more consistent level of quality. Season 2 did dip. I think the end of season 2 was kind of a misfire. I did see a comment here from Deb that says, I almost quit Superman and Lois after the season 2 finale. I get that. It was a little rough the way they handled the ending of season 2. I felt like in that regard, they wrote themselves into a corner and they had to figure a way out. And that was the only thing they could do, was really sort of power up Superman.
I think Superman and Lois, like if you say that's your favorite, I 100% get it. I do think Stargirl might slightly edge it out for me. Like that was 3 seasons in a row that I think were very consistent, and I think that's my favorite ending of all the shows as well, because it's like they like we don't know if they knew, like how much they knew going in, if it was a final season, if it wasn't. But I think despite it not being a final season, it had a fantastic final season. Like they were wrapping up storylines. They had Iceman.
What about Titans?
You know what? Season 4 was my favorite season, but not by a lot.
Don't
try and sugarcoat Titans. None of that.
I would Titans.
I would say almost like Stargirl and Superman and Lois for me are almost 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
in terms of like the quality they have, because they represent 2 different types of shows, but they both hit that mark. For me, Stargirl season 2 will always be goated. That's my favorite season of Stargirl. It might be one of my favorite seasons of like superhero TV in general, partly because it was their first season as a non-streaming show, and they were able to elevate what they had already done in terms of the first season. And I really enjoyed the darker tone of it mixed with like the lightness of Stargirl, because she's such a bubbly character that it kind of really worked in that dark world. It reminded me a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I used to love that show. So that's kind of why, that worked for me. But what are you gonna say, Paigey? I think you were gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say, like, as a whole, I'd probably agree with Darren in regards to Stargirl. I think in regards to like beginning to end consistency through, really no like standout weak points that because season 2, like that's the thing, Superman Lois is always going to have season 2 where you go okay, it was a bit messy, it's always just going to have, it wasn't a bad season, but it's just one where you go, you can't ignore that it was a bit disjointed. Stargirl just goes up there. But you know what, I will say one thing quickly before. I do think that the only reason Superman and Lois split up from the Arrowverse is because they thought they were going to go for 7 seasons. Probably. If they had like a crystal ball and they knew they were ending in season 4, they wouldn't have split up. They would have stayed in the Arrowverse. They would have kept it connected, because at that point they knew Flash only had a couple of seasons. There wasn't really like Grant and the Canaries had, didn't rise, just fell. And, like there was really no. It didn't seem like there was a lot of that spin-off stuff that was really going to work out. And I think like Legends and Batwoman, I think, are being cancelled by that point. So it was like in regard, and like at that point they didn't know the CW was going to like. And
then Black Lightning and Supergirl both ended. Like they didn't get canceled, but they both ended.
Yeah, and at that point they didn't know CW was going to dive headfirst into a blender. So they just were sort of like, okay, this makes sense. We'll just, and then
because I don't think we got an official answer until season 2, right? Season 2 was
in season 1. It was clearly set in the Arrowverse. They referenced stuff. Yeah. The only thing that I was like, okay, maybe they were second guessing it, was that they removed those Supergirl references from the pilot. That's in the script.
And also,
it's in the pilot script, which you can look up.
One of the funny things that I like made my mind just like kind of like I guess, figure out like make sense of the fact that they're in the same universe. And I was like, Supergirl's Fortress of Solitude. I was like, we haven't seen the entire thing, so obviously there could be a section just for Superman, and that's his space, his room that we just haven't seen yet. So that was
Well, it was also that was straight after Crisis, and they hadn't really like done much there. Like,
yeah,
so Superman had the flexibility where they could change stuff if they wanted to. It was like, this is just post Crisis because you haven't really spent much time with him. But yeah,
what were you gonna say, Darren?
Oh no, it wasn't important, but just that like I think even as early as like season 2, it felt like it was still connected. Like you recap or you bring back in Lucy. Start of the season, they were like, okay, we have something that's gonna make fans very happy. Like, stay tuned to the end of the season. Like I think it would have had the opposite effect. Like, I think they had something Arrowverse related planned, and then throughout the filming of that season, they were like, oh, things aren't looking.
Because wasn't there like the Batwoman crossover that was supposed to happen?
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
But Diggle was showing up in season 2 as well, wasn't he? Didn't he show up a couple times?
Mm-hmm.
Like this all went.
Go ahead, Karen.
Sorry. Yeah, this all happened too because season 1 of Superman and Lois was right out of COVID.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all the plans they had, they had to throw out the window. That Batwoman crossover, throw out the window. Any other crossovers, you can't do it in season 1.
Right.
They didn't know where it was going to look down the line, season 2 and forward, but season 1 set the mark like we don't have crossovers. And I guess they just decided, especially like you said earlier, like Flash is winding down and Batwoman doesn't look like it's got long to live either. Why don't we just like cut ourselves off from that?
Right.
I really just wish we could have seen that alternate reality where COVID wasn't a thing, because I think the Arrowverse looks so fundamentally different. Like it's a completely different thing. I think it'd still be over now, but I think like those last like 3 to 4 years would have been. You would
have gotten one more big crossover. Like that's 100%. The one thing. Whenever people say like COVID, I'm like, I think the Arrowverse was already running down. I think the one thing it took from us, was another big crossover, because like Canada Guy's favorite mate, Guggenheim, has said like that they'd started writing it, like they'd started piecing it together, because it just takes time to logistic wise and stuff like that. Actually, to put things together.
So for me, looking back at it, I think we probably would have had one more season of Supergirl, maybe a shorter season at least. We would have had one more. I think Black Lightning was done though, because there was a lot of drama behind the scenes, and it was very obvious in that 4th season that something was going on. I know we've talked about that in great detail. We've never had a proper answer, but there were like 3 different fights happening at the same time behind the scenes, and like there was no way they were going to work together after that, or they would have had to completely recast, which they were going to do. I do believe that when they did the whole like exploding in the sky and then becoming a different person when she came back, I think that was going to be the recast, and then they realized no, we're wrapping up the season, so we have to bring her back. So I think that's what happened with that, which is also really weird. They went through all that trouble to do that. But I think we've had another season of Supergirl. I actually think that doing a crossover may have possibly allowed them to hold on to Batwoman and Legends maybe one more season, if they would have thought they were going to get a crossover out of it. Because the Legends cast got along swimmingly. It was completely different from Black Lightning. They all really loved each other. And Batwoman was just really, I'll be honest, I think season 3 was the best season of Batwoman, and I think it was really setting up something interesting.
Funnily enough, we're talking about consistency. I actually think Batwoman is actually one of the more consistent shows throughout the Arrowverse.
I agree.
I think all seasons are fairly on par with each other. Like, I don't think there's necessarily an outstanding. Like, if someone said they preferred season 2 over 3 or 1 over 2 and 3 or whatever, I'd be like, fair enough, because I think it's an incredibly consistent show. It doesn't mean it's a good show. I think it's actually very consistently.
I think me and Canadagraphs were the only two like that were really defending Batwoman in the end, because I don't think anybody else liked it. So
I think that 3rd season was like finally finding itself. Like, I think it was like, okay, we've because like season 1 was obviously the Kate stuff. Season 2 we had Orion, but it was still about the Kate stuff. Like, she couldn't be herself yet. And then season 3 was like, okay, this is Batwoman. It's like, haha, you think we're canceling you actually.
They finally were able to shake the Kate drama off them a little bit and focus on Ryan's character, and that was it.
And the sucky thing about it is that they were really pushing hard for the character in the comic books after Javicia was cast. So they were going to do this different version. And I know they don't want us to think about this, but we lost Batwoman for Gotham Knights. That's essentially what it came down to.
Yeah.
And Gotham Knights wasn't the worst show I've ever seen. I think it was an okay CW show. It felt dated, and I don't think it was better than Batwoman.
No.
So it was kind of a bad trade-off, in my opinion.
I think we probably would have lost Batwoman either way. Like, I don't think it's like it's a situation. Well, if we didn't get Gotham Knights, we wouldn't have got Batwoman. But I think they're like, well, there's an opening. I guess I could do this little show for a season. Whatever, just put it out there.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate though, because like I think a Gotham Knights show within Batwoman could have been really cool.
Yes.
Because like I think what Gotham Knights was missing, because I actually kind of like Gotham Knights, but they don't have the characters that people want to see in a Gotham Knights story. It's like, well,
I actually think if you take part of that Gotham Knights cast and make it a season of Batwoman, like her with those kids, I think that would have been a much more interesting series. Okay, so we have a couple super chats here. Let's look at the super chats and see what people are saying. So Naruto here, this is in reference to the stream from Thursday. $5 super chat. Eric, did I kill your excitement for Game of Thrones when I told you it's a mobile game? Not really. I don't have like a stigma against all mobile games. I think there's some mobile games that are predatory. And you know what? This one may be. I mean, it may be a situation where you have to pay for characters or skins or something like that.
To be honest, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, fuck, why did I get excited? I thought it was going to be Skyrim, but Game of Thrones.
Well,
like,
I'm not as excited as I was, but I wasn't like turned away completely because I play mobile games on my Chromebook. So essentially like a laptop. So when I play it on the Chromebook, it doesn't necessarily feel like a mobile game. It actually plays like a normal like game you would play on your computer. So for me, that's not a big problem, but I will say this, it does mean that there's going to be a limited linear story. It's not going to be like a regular RPG, which is fine. I will give it a shot, but the minute it charges me to give my character a sword, I'm out. So we have a $10 super chat from Silhouette Animator. Thank you so much. 3 Arrowverse shows had closure. Black Lightning, true. Flash, true. Supergirl, yeah, I didn't really like it, but you're right. It did have closure. 3 had cliffhangers: Batwoman, Constantine, Legends. Then Arrow had the stupid Mia William and the Hooded Figures cliffhanger on its ending. Okay, so because this is a DCTV stream, it's not just Superman and Lois. So I want to just look back here. Okay, Black Lightning's ending was closure, but I hate the way they did it because they also tried to spin off a show that like what was it? What was the valley? Yeah, no, but what was the name of the valley they were going? It was Akasha Valley, I think, or something like that. But it was like supposed to be like a Wakanda type vibe or whatever, which I think was wrong. I think Painkiller should have just been street level type character, and you know.
Though I liked him on Fire Country, so I don't have a problem with it.
I think Black Lightning was borderline canceled. Like, obviously they were able to do some sort of ending, but it's very clear they wanted to go at least 5 to 6 seasons.
Yeah,
they weren't ready. Like those final 2 episodes were like, shit, it's our final season. Let's wrap up this.
Yeah.
Give a half.
They also left the mystery of the metahuman stuff on the table too. That was never fully wrapped up either.
And with Legends, the showrunner was given like well in advance that they may never come back again, and she like plundered it. Yeah,
so Legends is weird because they did, I mean, it did come out that she did have an idea that they weren't going to make it. It was never like 100% definitive. But the problem is, I think if you know the show may end, and this is just me, but I'm not the showrunner, so I don't make those decisions, but I would leave some things open for like another season, but I would try and close all the major storylines as I can that season. So
don't leave it open enough to where they're all arrested though. I mean,
the one solitary piece of defense I'll give for their showrunner, and it's a thin one, I still blame her specifically, is since season 3 of that show, they had constantly been told you might not be coming back.
Yeah. Right. So, and every time they made it, they made it every time. Like,
so at what point do you start not believing it, right?
It's like season 7 for 4 seasons. We were told we're not coming back, so we're gonna do it again.
I think it kind of I think that sucks for sure the way they ended. But honestly, I don't blame them for trying to pull that again, being like, well, this works. Like before all the COVID and strikes and stuff, it's like that would oftentimes work. Where it's like, okay, if we have a cliffhanger and we do get canceled, people will riot to get our show canceled, to bring our show back. It happened with so many shows. I imagine that was her mindset, where it's like, oh, we'll just make people so angry they'll have to bring us back. Obviously, didn't work. What I will say though, and this is a hot take. Obviously, I wish like Sarah, like especially got her like final season because she's the longest running Arrowverse character who did not get a closure.
Yes, true.
Kind of Diggle the same way, but I feel like he kind of got something. But honestly, it's also very Legends coded. Like I kind of like Legends being like I think Legends should have always been the story continues kind of ending for them. Like they just ride off into the sunset doing their thing, and like it's a very chaotic ending. But I think Legends is always chaotic, so I kind of think it almost fits them. Like you can kind of just imagine your own kind of story of how they got out of that like situation. I kind of think it fits them a little bit.
I do remember the paging. Sorry, 3Dub. Go ahead.
And I always thought like if like a show, they're all connected, right? In this Earth Prime, if a show fails, another show should like have an episode to kind of like fix that problem, so that it feels like everything's concluded in a way. Like it doesn't have to take like it can be off screen or whatever. Just mention it and kind of like fix the continuity error.
I used to feel that way too, but my issue with that, well, I have two issues with that. One is I don't think it should be another showrunner's responsibility to end another person's show, and I think that's a big take. Now, if you're the same showrunner, like say for example, I was the showrunner for Legends, and I'm also the showrunner for The Flash, then I might go, "Hey, I want to end my characters on The Flash because I'm the showrunner and I have the opportunity to do that." The issue with Legends, this is the biggest problem, is their ending was such a chaotically crazy ending. I don't think there was any way one episode could wrap up everything that happened.
And it's important to remember that Legends got cancelled when as Flash was heading into season 9 where I had minimal episodes. Like I would have been, despite what season 9 ended up being, I still would have been annoyed at Eric Wallace if he decided to give in episodes of the Legends. It was like, hold on, no. Now, of course, in retrospect, looking back at season 9, I'm like, okay, well, fuck, we can take that Allegra episode out.
Also, the logistics of getting that entire cast back would have been astronomically different.
Yeah, it wouldn't like they were in a very like not as probably bad as Superman and Lois, but on probably a very similar situation in regards to like the budget.
From what Lance told me, they kind of like brought them out of the prison in the comics.
Yeah,
like, there's the Earth.
Oh yeah, because everyone reads the comics.
Exactly. I mean, they did it, but it's not what I wanted.
I feel like you could have had like a little mention of them if you really wanted to. Like maybe there's a thing was like, oh, ever since they got out of time jail, we've been hanging out or something.
True.
Like, a little off branch comment
like,
or something.
Yeah.
You could have brought back one of the less primary characters, like not Katie or not Brandon or whatever. That would have.
I know who we could have brought back. Eric's favorite, Mona. Like you would have loved that, Eric.
Well,
any of the secondary.
No, my favorite's Gary.
Gary. Any of the secondary characters that you could get for cheap enough, you could have filled in one of the episodes that those 2 or 3 like crap episodes in the middle. You could have put them in there in some secondary role, and had 1 or 2 throwaway lines like, "Oh, exactly like you said, like, oh, ever since we got out of jail, this is what everyone's been up to."
Right.
Another one kind of like made it kind of like hard to believe is the fact that Javice's Batwoman just appears in the future and then reappears and somehow they're buddies with the Flash.
Yeah. We'll talk about that next, but I wanted to touch on Cody's comment here. I think Legends had too much going on. I agree with this because that's the biggest issue is that you would have needed, honestly, in order to properly tie up, you would have needed a season of TV. It just was so much happening. But in comics, it's really easy because you can tell that in 4 panels if you want. Like they got out of jail and they're free or whatever. But nobody's reading those. Like even those tie-in comics that we all purchased, or I know I purchased. I think Paige you got or whatever. There was questions about how some of that made sense within the Arrowverse because, like, I remember the Superman and Lois stuff was super confusing, and the Stargirl stuff was a little bit confusing as well. So, just in general,
and they should have left Diggle alone.
Well, they wanted that Justice You show or whatever they wanted to spin off into. It, like never happened.
I kind of wanted
so many spin-offs that never came to light.
Yeah,
I kind of wanted my imagination to be like, he's Green Lantern now. The end.
Thank you for being a team member, Cody. We had another super chat here from Naruto, $5 super chat. Without COVID, we've got a 10th anniversary celebration. Yeah, I believe that's true.
Yeah.
I'm
still shocked they did nothing for that.
Yeah, me too. And
they did the Allegra episode. Didn't you pay attention?
Darren, I think you had mentioned around that time that you had hope that they were going to do one based on like everything you had been seeing or whatever.
I don't even remember. Like I was always wishful thinking about stuff. Like always wishful thinking I was going to get something. What was airing then? Was that just the Flash season 9 or
no?
When was that?
It was. Did the Flash? Because the Flash didn't premiere.
I think it was the Flash and Stargirl were the two shows that were on at that time.
Stargirl, I think, was the closest because didn't Flash premiere at the beginning of the year?
Season 8 of Flash, because Flash came in season 3 of Arrow, and Arrow went
It was when season 9 would have premiered if it had a full season.
It was season 3 of
season. There was only 13 episodes. I don't think they had I think they started in the beginning of 2020.
I think it was the end of Stargirl and the beginning of the final season of the Flash.
Stargirl would have been the closest one, but you could argue that the Flash did it in season 9 when Oliver and Wally and everything came back in that episode. It just was 4 months delayed because they weren't airing at the time that the actual anniversary happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. As far as Batwoman, though, I will say, as much as we hate it, they tried to give us a Batwoman thing on the Flash with the Red Death storyline. I would have preferred.
Love that.
Yeah, right. I still would have preferred just a street level thing with Batwoman that allowed them to tie up her story.
One off, yeah.
Yeah, like have them face a villain together, and then she walks off into the sunset, and you kind of know that she. Because they wrapped up the 90s Flash. I mean, his storyline was wrapped up on the Flash. So
what's funny is they could have used the actor that played the fake Bruce Wayne. That's what irked me the most about the Red Death arc, is that they had Batman right there.
Yeah, the issue though, I think, and we've talked about this before, this is not to say that you can want whatever you want. I think the issue was that they wanted to give Javicia more time, and giving it off to another actor that was in like one scene. I think they didn't feel like that was worth it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think having a Bruce Wayne in the Arrowverse would have been like sort of redundant and pointless. It's either you have it as Batwoman and you just try and force a connection there, or you make it someone else. You make it Oliver Queen. You make it Roy Harper. You make it whatever. You make it someone else. Or you don't get the fucking character at all, which I would prefer because I knew the character was arse heading into it.
I think if I had my way, like if I was like a magic genie or whatever, I know there's controversial with the actress, but I would have had it be Wallace Day's Kate Kane, because then Barry automatically has a like connection with that version of the character, and then it's like, oh, he has to team up with this new Batwoman to take down that Batwoman.
Right, because then they could have had Wallace Day as Red Death and then just had Javicia come in as Batwoman.
The funniest thing is that you could have had Ruby Rose, because I think Ruby Rose is actually pretty sweet with everyone else on the Flash cast. It was everyone on the Batwoman like side of things that she had issues with.
And
I probably could have used her if you wanted.
I think Ruby Rose is just outright blacklisted from CW projects or Warner Brothers projects.
I kind of wanted Grant Gustin to actually travel to Gotham and be like, "Hey, I need your help to stop an evil version."
Well, the thing about the Red Death, and we could sit here and pick it apart. We're going to move on though, but the thing about Red Death for me is that the setup for it, the Batwoman is missing. We don't know where she is. Mystery never affected anything. She just showed up at the end, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty stupid.
One last thing I'll add, or whoever was asking about putting in Warren Christie in the role, he was the lead of a series that year.
Oh, okay.
I just was looking at his IMDb now to see what he was doing.
Right. So we're at the half an hour mark, and I want to answer these two super chats, and then we're going to talk about what we think of the future when it comes to DC television. Which is going to be streaming pretty much. But we have two super chats here from Silhouette Animator, $2 super chat, non-Arrowverse, but Krypton and Pennyworth ended badly. I know Krypton ended on a cliffhanger, I believe. And I didn't see the final season of Pennyworth, so I don't know what happened with that one.
Really? I thought it was your favorite show.
Absolutely not. I don't care about the origin of Batman's butler, but I've heard it was good. So, and I've watched a little bit of it.
Out of the two, so
yeah.
I actually
Anthony here with a $2 super chat and a team member. Thank you, Anthony. Still wish we got Stargirl and Flash crossover. I think everybody wanted that because those two shows had such a similar vibe. I think they would have made the perfect crossover.
Speaking of that, there was a big continuity error with Jay Garrick because he's obviously the Jay Garrick from Stargirl, and we never got an explanation of how the heck he got onto Earth Prime.
Or Earth 3, you mean, right?
No, on Earth Prime or Earth 3. There was no explanation of how he traveled to the future on Earth Prime.
I actually So
Well,
I'm
I
not
guess-
giving
I
them any
guess the
points.
question,
Yeah,
like,
okay.
was there a need for him to explain? There was. I don't know
Yeah,
if
that's what I was gonna
anything
say.
ever arose,
I feel
but-
like they just were kind of telling us that he can cross over and do things.
Yeah.
like that,
I mean, if
so.
someone went like, if someone asked him and he just walked off, okay, then it'd be like, hold on, I asked you a question, can you answer it? But
I do think like what 3Dub is saying to me makes like I would have liked to have seen more of that. They
Mhm.
could have done that in like a season 4 of Stargirl, made it a little bit,
Yeah.
because I think they were setting up the whole idea of her joining the proper like JSA and doing things like that way. And I would have been okay with that, but we didn't get that, so we're just supposed to assume, I guess,
Yeah.
that he was able to do those things.
I kind of wanted to see the fallout because all we saw in season 1 of Stargirl is a helmet that was on the ground, no body. What happened to him?
I think like that was probably the plan, or just like kind of like their idea, because I do think she would have crossed over with the main timeline. We heard season 4 is going to be like multiverse related, which I still don't know how that would have worked, but I think like they probably would have done, like Flash had just kind of reintroduced the multiverse, Stargirl kind of teasing that idea. I think if everything was in their original plan, they would have done some kind of crossover thing the following year. I know people also say Titans, like, oh, Titans doing multiverse 2 next season will be a 3-part thing. I was like, I don't know about all that, but like I do think there was like something in the works that just never happened.
Sean here says, also, did I misunderstand or did I hear DC spoiler mention on CW's Batwoman show? I think I do remember discussing that, but I don't remember the context of it. Do you remember any Canada Graphs?
Familiar? Yeah, the name sounds familiar. Why? God damn.
Well, spoiler is a character from the comics. So,
yeah, and I believe it was brought up on Batwoman.
Oh, okay. I was confused by this comment. I
No,
didn't know spoiler was
she
there.
shows up, doesn't she? Isn't?
Yes,
'cause it's-
Stephanie Brown, right?
I was gonna say spoilers. Stephanie Brown. She's
but I'm saying like
up.
as the actual character spoiler.
Yeah,
No, just her official name, not character name.
I also think she was mentioned in Titans too. When they're looking for like, I guess,
Gotham Knights.
Oh, when
No.
they show those photos, when they show those goddamn photos.
yeah, when they showed the photos of like potential like heroes in the making, I guess, and Stephanie Brown came up.
Yeah.
It looked like a headshots auditioning for a Disney Channel show.
Yeah. So looking around at the future for DCTV, because in the title of this, I said DCTV has left the building, and people are going to argue there's still DCTV shows and there are streaming shows. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't consider those to be the same thing as like a DCTV show. I think for me specifically, DCTV means network television.
Yeah.
And I like, there's just a difference between the streaming shows and the ones we get on regular networks. And it's not just the fact they broadcast in 2 different places, but there's actually a different vibe to them, not like Cisco, but a different vibe for all of these things. So for me, you look at what we have, right? We have Penguin now. We know we're getting the Lanterns show. That's the next thing I think after Penguin, right? TV show other than cartoons.
I think there's Waller.
Well, Waller's not in production yet, I don't think.
No, only thing in production is Peacemaker Lanterns, I think.
Oh, Peacemaker. I can't believe I forgot about that. Peacemaker season 2.
Peacemaker's not for a while still, though.
Yeah.
It's
so
I think it's next August.
Yeah. So we have those things coming up. But what makes me sad is I don't think we'll ever see the risk taking that we saw on the Arrowverse in terms of bringing in random characters, because we could get like a well-known character and sometimes you get like an obscure character, somebody that you would never think you would get on television. And I know Peacemaker falls into that category, but I don't know if we're ever going to get anything like Peacemaker again. So I think that era of like risk-taking television, because of the amount of episodes a show gets, we're not seeing these 20 episode seasons where you can dedicate an episode to some random character. It has to be someone worth it to go on the series. I don't see that in the future. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think James Gunn is going to greenlight random TV shows, or do you think we're going to be more specific?
I'd like to say yes, and it's always been and I think I've said it here before, because it's always the funniest thing. Like, I guess just internally, it's not like I'm writing a stand-up thing based off it, but it's always funny going onto Twitter, because I've said this here before. James Gunn essentially leans into very much what the Arrowverse was. It's just that he does like a same with Peacemaker. Like, Peacemaker is an Arrowverse show with swearing.
Yes, I will agree with that.
Yeah.
It literally is. It's literally, it's got very similar archetypes to like something like Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
with the it's because it's like people don't want to admit that. And the funny thing is, like, I won't name names, but you see people on Twitter going, "Oh, Peacemaker, I love it, 10 out of 10," and then they'll shit on the Arrowverse the next day. I'm like, bro, you literally are loving an Arrowverse show that swears.
I would also say that Doom Patrol was very much an Arrowverse type show. I could have seen Doom Patrol being an Arrowverse series.
Yeah, it's kind of is though, because it's on Earth 21.
Yeah, but I think he means more in like regards to like tone and style and stuff like that. Because that was the thing I always loved about the Arrowverse, is that it wasn't afraid to lean into the comic booky and goofy and risky area. But the thing is, you had 22, 23.
Well, we don't.
13
we're not sure about the state of Booster Gold. To be honest, right now, we don't know what they're doing with that. So.
And also, it depends which way you go with it. Like, you can make Booster Gold just a silly thing if you really wanted to, or you can make it a bit more of a like character journey where, because in the comics, like his whole thing is that like he learns from his mistakes, but the show might be like, we're not going to lean into that. That's maybe for like a larger DC.
We're just going to make it slapstick humor where he flies around and does
and
like
got a little
Guardians
robot
of the
that
Galaxy
talks to him and everything like that, and that's where they play the comedy. Like, he's almost like a superhero that, like, I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to think of like an oh shucks, or not even oh shucks, like oh fuck, I fucked it, like that type of superhero. Like, he makes mistakes, but he's got the advantage of time travel, so he knows what the outcome is. So he's a superhero that cheats essentially. Yeah, which I think is like an interesting concept for the superhero thing, but also a show that there's really no example of it. Because even the Legends, for example, if we use like another time travel show, for example, they know what's meant to happen, or at least what they need to change. But you don't know what the specific or finer details around that is. Like, you could have a random guy that's holding a cupcake that all of a sudden, if you knock him, the cupcake falls on the floor, you slip on the cupcake, you screw the mission up.
Right, yeah. I would say, though, like for me, you look at something like Penguin and Lanterns, those don't feel like Arrowverse shows. Those are very different from Arrowverse. And
they just feel like reskinned HBO, like premium TV shows. Like someone else wrote, it's very much like Joker. Like someone just wrote a script and went, fuck, this isn't going to sell. Let's just make the character Joker. And we'll just chuck it out there and set it in Gotham City.
But I also think.
Oh yeah, but the cupcake thing was not a pedophilic reference, by the way, just in case, because Pups is putting that in the chat.
I see that. I'm not pulling it up, and you didn't even have to address it. But
I should have said blueberry muffin. I should have said blueberry muffin. That's a bit undercooked.
Thank you for clearing that up, Darren.
No, I mean, I think like, hopefully, James Gunn's DCU can. What I'm hoping is they're going to take a little bit of everything across the board. Like, if it's the Arrowverse, if it's the MCU, if it's, the like animated stuff, it's Star Wars, and hopefully combine all the best parts of it is what I'm hoping. Where it's like, I feel like you can have the world building and the very deep character stuff that the CW was able to offer, but maybe with like the budget of like an MCU project. And like, the like versatility of a Star Wars thing where it's like, not everything is going to feel like the Arrowverse, but also I think that's kind of a good thing, because like what was one of the big criticisms for many people for the Arrowverse is that sometimes they often all kind of felt the same, which I didn't always hate. But like I like that you can have Superman and then you can have Swamp Thing, you can have Supergirl, and you can have Booster Gold, which all feel like these very individually toned projects, which I think is very healthy. I think especially like, again, like what's the main criticism of the MCU is like, well, it like
it's all samey same.
Yeah, it's all the same. So it's like, I think that's healthy. I think it's good. It's like, I'm going to miss this universe. I wish it could parallel, like continue along with the DCU, but I'm happy that we're at least moving forward with DC, because we felt so stagnant for so many years.
Darren, I know people don't want to admit this, and this might be a hot take, and I'm sure the chat will tell me if it's a hot take or not.
Edgy.
But I feel like DC's biggest competitor to the MCU was the Arrowverse.
I agree. Yeah.
And I'm not talking about scale and money put into it. I mean, what they were doing with the Arrowverse was the closest thing to what the MCU was.
I bring it on a TV budget.
I think it's way more impressive than what the MCU did. Like, not only were they like creating a shared universe, but they were doing like 4 to 5 projects every year,
and movies with the TV shows. Those crossovers were basically movies.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and they were under budgets. They were understaffed. People hated these shows. Like they were always getting grief from all the outside fans, but they kept going. They kept moving forward.
Well,
and
Asterix Batman fans on Twitter. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, no.
I have a Nightwing profile picture or something like that.
But like, let's also look at the fact that when Marvel was doing their universe, what would you get? 2 movies a year, sometimes 3. So you're talking 9 hours of content. at peak.
Mhm.
The Arrowverse one season is more than that.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
60
Let alone
hours a
five
year.
of them going at the same time.
I was gonna say we had like 2 or 3 years where we had 5 seasons of TV on
Yeah.
at any given year. So
People complain about like the current like MCU and how much of it is, but like we were just doing these 60, 70 hours of TV every year, and then it would be off for 3 months, and then we would do it again. We would do the same thing again, which is absurd, but we loved it. Like it's like I don't know, it's again. God, sorry.
No, straight up can go.
And if you add like the early 2000s, you had so many, like we never had a break from DCTV. Like
right.
Yeah.
it just continued to Arrow, to Flash, to Lucifer, to iZombie, to other projects that kept going.
You can say Smallville. We know you want to.
I'm trying to be like
Smallville's not a bad word over here. I like Smallville. You don't have to do this,
I want to make
you know.
sure so that apparently I got called out for it. So
Oh, I'll still laugh at you for it, but
Just
my
around
favorite
there.
show is Smallville.
I mean, look, there is truth to the fact that Smallville did sort of lay the groundwork for what the Arrowverse
101% it did.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, so Eric, do you agree that Mark Pedowitz saved the CW? So, I think if Mark Pedowitz had stuck around, we would have seen a lot more shows. Like he would have fought a little bit more for some of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
I think, would he have won? Would we have gotten more? I don't know. You got to think this was like what happened with the Arrowverse was against the odds, right? So you had COVID going on. You had all this stuff going on with Warner Brother Discovery, which that all screwed with that. You had the stuff going on with the ownership of the CW between CBS and Warner Brothers. You had all the deals with Netflix expiring for a lot of the shows, the things that were keeping, Flash and Arrow on. The other shows didn't have that. You had the DC streaming service that failed. So they ended up offloading some of those shows to the HBO streaming service and to CW.
Yeah.
Then you have the Superman and Lois show that was being shared between CW and HBO Max, even though the CW wanted to stream the show on their site first, but HBO Max wanted to put it on immediately. Because let's be honest here, out of all this, the Arrowverse shows, the Superman and Lois show was the best fit for HBO Max compared to outside of Stargirl, of what they had left on the network. No offense to Flash, we know how I feel about Flash, but Eric Wallace, the quality wasn't there. But Superman and Lois definitely was. So there was this perfect storm of things that were going on that sort of ripped the Arrowverse apart with very little resistance. There wasn't a lot of control that could have been done in terms of making it happen. However, had Mark Pedowitz been at the CW, I think that he could have been that person that did really fight for some of those shows. But he saw the writing on the wall. He was about to head out. Next Star was coming in, and there was just nothing that could be done. And now, to be fair, that network, even if you subtract the Arrowverse from it, it's a completely different network. There's no resemblance to what it was 5 years ago.
You could say like basically they kept tying the CW behind, like tying their arms behind their back, forcing them to do like bad stories and like constrain them to where they can't like spread their wings, and then completely change ownership to where it's going to fail.
To be fair, if there's a world where CW did not get purchased, we probably still would have DC TV shows on the CW. Yeah. But there's no point in them putting them on there because of the fact that they didn't want to offload product like these products anymore. They wanted them to go to like Prime and Netflix, like Sandman and stuff like that. But they wanted these other projects to go other places.
I just want to say to 3Dub's point, CW isn't going to fail. It's just never going to be what you want it to be.
No, I meant like the DC TV was going to fail because they set
up.
They set
Yeah.
up the shows to fail.
The CW is going to keep doing whatever it can to stay afloat. That means putting out is the cheapest possible content they can. That's what they're going to do.
There's a multitude of channels out there that live and succeed very well off shit television. Like,
No,
they have a low budget, no high end cast, and they still get their 400 to 900,000 viewers, and that's enough for them to succeed.
So I wanted to ask you while we're talking about this, and then we're going to answer these super chats, but what is the feeling right now in Vancouver because of all of these shows getting sort of canceled? Like, what does the production look like?
Well, I said this elsewhere. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but just last year, like the 2023 year, there was 78 productions going on during, was it October or November? We'll say October, just because I can't remember which month it was now. This year, there's 22 at that same time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are fighting for those jobs because they've been working in that industry, and now there's nothing. For
But it's
them.
not just the CW. It's not just the CW. Everybody is cut back on their productions.
So you said, I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said that there's things they're filming for like Lifetime and other streaming services and things like
Hallmark
that.
Is a Hallmark is a
Hallmark,
big
that's
dealer
it. Yeah.
in town. Yeah,
Because of especially the holiday stuff, they want to film up there.
Yeah,
Because
but the holiday stuff is always done in like April because they need it for now.
So, but like, what are the big months for filming in Vancouver? Like, what are the big production?
Well,
months?
traditionally, it always used to be TV season from September or July through to April. Those would be the big ones. But now I don't think there really is a set tone to that because streaming is now probably 40% of what films here. Hallmark is 50%, and then 10% is traditional TV.
Yeah.
You know? So
Maddie says, what shows does Canograph have lined up for filming? Are you actually doing any photos? None
right now. Last thing that was here that I went out and photographed was Last of Us.
When did that
nothing-
wrap up?
Yeah, a few months ago.
Okay.
There's nothing here right now that I'm like. We have Tracker. I don't. No one cares about Tracker scoops. You know.
Yeah.
Well, one of the big things is that a lot of the like genre stuff that would normally go to Canada is now going to like England. Like they're building seem to be like a lot of the stuff seems to be going to England for.
So Ben's got to get out there and take some pictures now with his phone.
Yeah, or like even like
people can complain about the quality, and then he has to argue with them on social media.
They're even filming in like Australia and stuff like that, like because like there's tax breaks and stuff, so they're just like they'll jump at the tax breaks if they can.
But I thought that was part of the thing with Vancouver as well, as there was like an incentive to film in Vancouver.
Well, there used to be like we created that industry of tax breaks, but everybody does it now. Georgia does it. California just tripled theirs. Like everybody does it. Right. So we're now competing with this very thing we invented.
Yeah. And then you also have to compete with the fact that like it does like snow and stuff like that. So it's like, well, what period of the year do you film in? And
it never snows here.
I guess like even like just like the general
I know
and stuff like that. But then again they go to England as well. But then again it's probably like more to do with studio space and stuff like that.
It's just a matter of there's more places that have dipped their toe into the pool now. Like it's more watered down, but on top of that, every studio has cut back on what they're filming too.
Right.
Because once you had to deal with the actors and the directors, they realized we have to start paying more. Whoa! We're not just throwing money everywhere now. They're picking and choosing what they're going to film more carefully. So every single thing out there is fighting for 20% less productions. You know. Say all five of us pitched an idea. In the past, all five of us might have got approved. Now they're like 4 of us, or maybe even 3 of us might get approved.
Right.
You know.
Zaya dropped in with a shout out.
That's very late.
All right, we have some super chats here, and then we're going to do a few more questions and then give our final thoughts. Naruto here with a $5 super chat and a Team Eric member. Thank you so much, Naruto. The biggest misstep Batwoman made was the mystery of Kate Kane missing. They should have either recast Amelia or made it clear she was dead. Do we agree with this?
Retrospectively, yes, because like at the time I kind of liked the idea of that playing into the story of the second season. Looking back on it, I wish they just kind of like, Kate Kane went off somewhere and then we just kind of introduced Ryan off the bat. Like I don't think there needed to be a whole season story where it's like, okay, she went off and she's looking for Bruce, and then it's just done. It's just like that's it. Like we don't really hear much about it going forward. I think I would have either committed to recasting, which I'm glad we didn't because I love Ryan, or just cut it off dry, I think.
Do you think the show would have been completely, I know this is a weird question because I have my own opinion about this. The storylines would have been completely different had they just done Wallace and recast Kate and just continued on like that? Like, do you feel we would have gotten some of the same stuff? Or do you feel like that season 2, because I know season 3 was very unique to Javicia's or Ryan's Batwoman. Season 2, I feel like they still had some holdover from season 1 they had to deal with. Do you think they would have pushed harder and we would have seen more of like the comic book stuff from Kate Kane, or do you think they would have gone into the same territory they went into by the time we got to season 3?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like I think like season 2 was able to breathe like such a new life into the show. Like I think season 1 was like, okay, this is fine. Like it kind of just felt like Arrow 2.0, like in a
Mhm.
way, just like very rich character who's like a vigilante. I mean, I think they would have maybe found their footing. I think Wallace did a good performance. Like I have no issues with her performance as Kate. I think she did her job. I don't know if I would have cared though, because like they didn't do a good job in that first season, like convincing me at least of that character. So
And
I don't know.
didn't her suit kind of resemble Red Death, broken bat symbol through the middle?
Wait, what are we talking about?
Wallace Day's Batwoman, when she came back and dressed up in her leather jacket.
Oh, I don't remember. Did it?
Yeah, I think it was a Red Death kind of logo.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Let me look at
Yeah,
it.
look it up, and if you find it, let me know. Cody here with a $5 super chat, and again a team member. Comic book Green Arrow fans hate Arrow, but Arrow was successful as fuck. Yeah, so that was the thing is Arrow. They kept, Arrow kept being coded as like Batman, but not Batman because of everything that was going on. And I've never disagreed with that. I think I've always been consistently like, yeah, it is. It borrows a lot from Batman, but I think the difference is that you have an opportunity to tell those DC street level stories with a character that resembles Batman enough that those stories worked in that world. But you also have the Green Arrow characters from the comics you can bring over, like the Longbow Hunters, things like that. But I mean, like, to be very honest, I think season 5 of Arrow is unique to Arrow. I feel like that season, it was not a Batman story. It was very much a complete different version of this character Prometheus, and the mysteries in it were very unique to Arrow as a series. So
I love Green Arrow, but I've always said if it was a comic accurate Green Arrow, either A, wouldn't have been picked up, or 2, been cancelled after a season.
Yeah.
If you think it would have been the Justin Hartley one, it would have been canceled after one
just
season.
anything. Like if they had him like, just being like comic book, like as a foundational thing, the path they chose was the right one. Like it was. And it was a super successful show because of that. And I mean, you can argue that like, well, they sort of did base it off comic book Green Arrow because they based it off that Green Arrow year 1. Steve Amell's Green Arrow really does fold into that version of Green Arrow. So, like if it was this, like the comic book Green Arrow that was the comic book Green Arrow that people think of, like, I don't see that show might not have been cancelled like after season 1, but definitely wouldn't have been as near as successful as it was. And if it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been successful enough to get Flash, all the spin-offs and build the Arrowverse.
To be fair, I would say we're talking about like Marvel properties and DC properties. I would say Arrow is the flip side of Daredevil. Those two shows sort of live in the same universe, if that makes any sense in the way they're set up. And I think that's why they are successful. They fit that niche of they're not big enough characters to necessarily get movies, but they're big enough to work on a really good TV show, which is why I think Batman would work really good on a TV show, personally.
Yeah. But Zaya, isn't that what happened with him? Like I always isn't that what happened with Oliver Queen in Arrow?
You mean like becoming more lighthearted as time went on?
And a family man and everything? Like,
I mean, he was killing people for the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was his trajectory. People just because it didn't form into like a complete page to screen adaptation. But at the end of the day, it's an adaptation. If you want to read that thing, you read the comic. Like, that's what I appreciate. Like, that's why you can like merge stories. That's why you like. If we go back to James Gunn for a bit, when he said like All-Star Superman, I was like, what the fuck? But then you look at the movie, it's like, okay, he's taking tiny little elements throughout All-Star Superman and putting them into the, like, shaping his version of Superman. He's not adapting that story. If you did, you'd ring alarm bells and go cancel the project now. What are you doing? But, you build them together.
So we had a super chat, the 5th ever super chat for Four Wheeler in Florida. Thank you so much for donating $5 and making that your 5th ever super chat. It's very, very awesome. So thank you. But you did have a comment here. We'll get to your comment next, but 3W, you have a picture here. Is this it?
Yeah.
So this was the Red Death Wallace Day Batwoman. So yeah.
It kind of looks like
I know something was weird about it, but I couldn't remember what it was. But I wouldn't consider that quite the same as.
I would also say that wasn't this because it was pieced together? Didn't they have to piece the suit back together? Is that what happened?
No, didn't she cut it with something to like?
Yeah, she cut it. She cut it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, like it's kind of like resembles the Red Death, but without actually.
So we're coming up on the hour mark, and this is a great way to sort of like round off this conversation. So thank you so much, Four Wheeler, for this $5 super chat. What are your thoughts on DC TV in general? And I want to give my thoughts here, and then everybody else can sort of chime off. We'll go around the chat here. Anthony says Alex Garfield has now confirmed that Jordan's wife is not Sarah. Yeah, I saw that. But DC TV in general. So I'm going to say this, and this, again, might be a hot take. I think we lost the best version of Superman we've ever had. I think Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, to me, encapsulated the best elements of Clark and Superman, and also as an older hero with a family and seeing a world that we don't normally see superheroes at that point in their career with their established life outside of being a superhero, and especially someone as big as Superman. And what I loved about that show was it actually gave us those quiet moments that you wouldn't expect from a Superman story, that you only really get in the comic books. You don't really see them in the movies. And we had a lot of them. We got to see Lois at her best because Bitsy killed that role. It's going to be really hard to top her Lois Lane. So I would even say we might have had the best version of Lois we've ever had. And when I say that, I don't mean better than like Christopher and Margot, because I think they both did amazing. But we haven't had that level of love in that character since that, in my opinion. So I feel like it's a perfect handoff of like, he was the early Superman, and then we had Tyler as the older Superman. And I think we have lost the best version of Superman we might ever have. We got to see what David's going to do with the role for James Gunn. But the future of DC TV in general, I'm glad we got what we got. It's such a great moment. If you want to go back and watch all of it, you can. Yes, we have a couple that left off without a conclusive story, like Batwoman and Legends. But I think a lot of the shows had really great stories. And even with the bumps in the roads for the seasons, we're talking about over a decade of our lives. I came back and started making YouTube videos because of the Arrowverse. I think a lot of people, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think a lot of people who were watching me and Paigey decided to start their career on YouTube, making videos and things like that. And that means a lot, because I see channels now that are still making content, some of them doing even better than my channel's doing, better than I ever expected by covering this kind of content and sort of progressing. It brought a community together. We're all here together because of the Arrowverse. And that's something that I think has to be stated. It has to be said, because a lot of people don't feel that way. We get a lot of shit on social media when we defend stuff. We had the best version of Doomsday we're probably ever going to have on Superman and Lois, and people still shit on DC TV and the Arrowverse. It's crazy to me. So for me, my thoughts on DC TV in general is we had a great run. You count Smallville in there into the Arrowverse. We're talking about over 2 decades of amazing television. And I just hope that James Gunn, my hope is that James Gunn continues this with the stuff on HBO. And that's my general thoughts. Let's go around the line. Paigey, we'll just do it in the order. So Paigey, what are your thoughts on this? On DC?
Well, just the DC TV as a whole.
Yeah. Like what you think of it moving forward and how you're feeling about it in general.
I mean, in regards to like the transitional period and stuff, I mean, like I was always like, I knew like Flash was ending. I thought Flash was going to end in season 8. Like I always predicted season 9, but it just felt like season 8. So when it got season 9, I was like, okay, stoked. Obviously, we got what it is. But yeah, I'm like, obviously, like, Superman and Lois came to an end. Stargirl came to an end. Like, those are probably the 2 ones where there's a bit of like a bittersweet thing, because I think they were great shows and they still ended in a really good fashion. But you just knew there was more on the chopping block. There was more on the bone, especially with Stargirl. Like, I think Stargirl had such a large playground to play with. That could have gone on for 7-8 seasons without it.
And the cast was so young; they were set up to be there for years.
Like, they were cast like the right age and everything, and like even just like So like I think Stargirl's probably one of a bigger missed opportunity than getting like an extra 2 or 3 seasons of Superman and Lois, because Superman and Lois did so much in those earlier seasons, and it was already Superman, I guess, if you want to put it in the twilight of his career. So that's probably the one where I'm like, fuck, I wish we could have got more of that. In regards to going forward. And I'll always appreciate that as well. Like, it's still, I think that's probably still going to be the best overall. Like, what? If you don't count Smallville, you just count like the Arrowverse specifically. Like what? 12 years. 12 years. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's mental.
Yeah.
So, I think like, what is it if you go back? Isn't it? It's like 50. is like 56 or 57 seasons of television or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like honestly, if we started watching again, it would take probably a year to get through all of those shows, and that's like if you watch them
I
every
think it
single
would
day.
take more than that. I think you'd have to like hook yourself up to like a catheter or something, whatever it is.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I speed ran Superman and Lois in I think it was 8 days.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's
Depends how
Yeah,
much
but,
you watch.
but that's a
week.
show that only had
Yeah.
like 13,
50,
like
50.
yeah, like those are smaller season show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm
like-
saying comparatively, like it can be
like
done.
if you would have done that back
That-
to back to back to back to back to
Oh,
back,
you would
without
have
your
gone
brain
crazy
exploding.
first of all.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
like 800
especially
plus
one-
episodes. It's crazy.
Yeah, especially once you get into some of those, like, I mean, like, I'm sure. Well, I know once Donna Smoke came into it, you would have been like really enjoying it. But
Yeah,
Like-
obviously.
obviously, when you get into some of those tougher moments, you'd be like, oh god, mind knowing. Yeah, but
yeah.
going forward, like as I've said, James Gunn to me leans more into the Arrowverse style of things. Like he will be obscure, he will lean into the goofier comic booky side. My only concern is obviously on the TV side it's a bit different, but I think a lot of the main stuff, like the juicy stuff, the very heavy storyline stuff in regards to the main, like this DCU as a whole going forward, which involves the DCTV stuff. But I think I sent it to you the other day, Eric. It's either all Batman related or all Superman related.
Yeah,
so
we did
far.
talk. It's either connected to Batman or connected to Superman
And
in
I'm
some
like,
way or another.
fuck
Yeah.
me. Like that was my main. That was like the main issue with a lot of things that we see already. So like, I'm hoping that changes up. I think it might be Gunn just trying to set like a solid grounding. You know,
Yeah.
and I know people are going, well, he's being risky out of the gate. Is he though? It's all Batman and Superman related. Like everyone's saying, like Clayface is this massive risk. Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Not really. Like, let's be honest, not really.
I have my
So-
feelings about Clayface, but we'll save that for like the next stream.
Yeah, but like, so on the TV side, like, I'm looking forward to Lands. Like, I think, like I have my trepidations with it. I'm like, oh god, like, really? But I love Damon Lindelof stuff. And I've heard about Ozark is good stuff, and that's people involved there. Yeah, Tom King being involved? Question mark. But like, I'm looking forward to Lands. From everything I'm hearing, I would have preferred the Berlanti version from what we knew about that show compared to this, but neither of them have started filming, and only one of them is going to be filmed. So I'm going to be looking forward to the one that's actually going to get filmed. Booster Gold, I'm looking forward to. If they,
It's funny you're answering that because Temple had this question, so we're kind of combining them together. I guess is what are we looking forward to? In terms of shows?
Number one, I think it's still Lanterns. Booster Gold's second. I'm just intrigued to see which angle they go with Booster Gold is. The comic they referenced is the Jeff Johns one, which is probably the best one to go for, but they'll probably lean into like Dan Jurgens, which is like OG one. But I hope there's just like the base thing is it's a superhero who knows what happens in the future. He can cheat, and there's a bit of a he's a dickhead. He's a dickhead that stole a super suit, essentially, like that. So you can have some fun with that, but hopefully there's a bit more of like a character journey going there. I just think number one is Lanterns by far, and everything else I'm like, I want to see what it is. Like Waller, to be honest, if it got cancelled, I would not care. Waller's the show. I'm like, that seems like Gunn wanting to pay off the end of Peacemaker season 1, but I honestly think if you hooked the DC viewing population up to a lie detector and said, do you care about Waller? I'd be lucky if anyone was saying the truth. They said yes.
All right. So 3Dub, what are you looking forward to, and how do you feel about the future of the DC TV shows?
To go on to like what I felt like with the ending is like I think it's bittersweet to where it kind of like begins with Superman and ends with Superman. And you have both Michaels as Lex.
Yeah.
You also have the villain from the pilot of Superman Smallville into Superman and Lois, exposing Superman's identity.
Right.
In the season 4.
So it's like a full circle thing, which is
full circle. I don't know if they did that on purpose or it's a happy accident, but it felt like I could like be like, okay, I can see like the like. It's I don't feel sad about it because it's touching base on like my favorite show plus their conclusion.
It's almost like Tom Welling's character went into like Tyler Hoechlin's.
Basically, yes. It felt nice.
Yeah.
And they also met, so I kind of like that. In Crisis, they met on screen. But yeah, while I'm looking forward to basically my first project will be Superman that I'm going into. If I like all the live action films that they have, I will go back to the animation. But right now, I couldn't care less about what's in the animation right now, unless it's or TV wise, unless it's a direct tie-in to something in the film.
Okay. What about you, Darren? Your thoughts on the Arrowverse and the future of DCTV and what you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of what I'm looking forward to, like, I'm excited for all the DCU. I think there's a lot of potential. I think my most anticipated show, though, is the Blue Beetle series that we're getting.
Right.
Like,
the animated one, right?
Yeah. Yes, because, funnily enough, when I watch that movie, it kind of feels like a CW show, just like the tone of that and the style. And I said while I'm watching that movie, I was like, this is good, but I think it'd be better if it was a show. And now we're getting the show. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm excited for that. In terms of this era of DCTV, so important to me, easily the most fundamentally important piece of media to my teenage years. I started watching these shows when I was in 7th grade, and I graduated with them still on. I'm doing all these things. Eric, I think I've told you this, but I used to, every Wednesday morning, I would listen to you guys on the bus. I would just listen to the after party, you and KB arguing about whatever. And now I've been on with
me
you
winning
guys.
those arguments.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes.
yeah, none of that.
But you would listen to so that's cool, because I mean it does show just how long we've been talking about and watching these shows. So Canada Graphs, anything you're looking forward to? Because I know you're not necessarily a big watching guy or whatever.
So that's the thing. I mostly wouldn't have gotten into this if it weren't for the fact that it's filming here. And now that it's not filming here, I'm kind of out of touch on what things are out. I know Creature Commandos is out right now, but I've said it many times on my own streams and probably even here. I don't really care for cartoon versions of things, so I haven't even looked into 1 second of it. When more characters I might be familiar with pop up, we'll see whether I change my mind. When Green Lantern comes up, or you're saying there's now a Blue Beetle one, something like that. Maybe I'll check it out.
Did you watch Peacemaker?
Oh yeah, but that's already in production. Talking about newer stuff. The other thing about that is the question from the super chat originally was about DCTV.
Right.
I don't consider any of this stuff coming out TV.
I agree.
This goes back to our discussion earlier about TV versus streaming.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is we're never going to have what we had.
Never.
All these things coming out now are going to be one-offs or moderately overlapping.
Or connected to another TV movie project somehow, I think. Is a lot of these things are going to be.
Yeah, similar to what Marvel did when they had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff.
And they've decided to move away from that now because of the problems they encountered. So, yeah.
But the Arrowverse and everything that was connected to that, you are not anytime soon getting another thing like that. And it was crazy that they did this on TV budget.
Yeah.
They get crapped on a lot, like we've said a couple times here. Can you believe how crappy this looks? Oh, can you believe the writing? They were getting TV writers. TV writers don't make the same as movie writers. They were getting TV FX teams, not the same as movie. Vastly different everything across the board.
Yeah.
And they tried things that other things aren't going to try. You're not going to see someone try a cancer storyline
on Lois Lane, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That they did it very well. Was it hard for some people to watch? 100%.
Yes, but I think that's what made it good. I think that's why it was so good.
And I mean, not everything they did landed, but they tried things. Remember they did the one episode about gun violence or whatever it was. Didn't land for most people, but they tried. You know, a lot of these shows that are going to come out now aren't going to take a lot of risks because the chains are a lot tighter now. You misstep even once, and your show is done.
Yeah.
Right.
They
So
like
we aren't
yeah.
going to get any of that anymore. And the last thing I'll end off on is I didn't realize it until like yesterday. It's been 5 years this week since we had the Crisis crossover.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll never we might have a crossover of something, but it's going to be like 2 shows, maybe 3 if you're lucky. And it's going to probably be on like 1 episode.
Right.
And yeah, it's crazy. Like, I remember, obviously, from my side, the experience of that. Every day I would wake up and be like, oh, wow, I've got something to go do. Oh, wow, I've got something to go do. And you guys, every day, you're like, oh, my God, did you see this new thing?
There's a video every day about a different show. Yeah.
And I still remember, personally, like, Paigey and I, the amount of flack we got for his Titan spoiler and my Lucifer spoiler. And there's never probably going to be another thing I'm going to be attached to that's going to have so much drama around it. No offense to The Last of Us, but I don't think they can do that.
Oh, sorry, I'm revving up my car. Sorry,
I can hear that. Yeah. It sounds like you're taking off in the Batmobile.
But yeah, I'm thankful for what it brought us, even with the sometimes exhausting material that some of the seasons brought. But like you said, 40, 50 seasons of this, let's say 30 of them were good or great, and 4 or 5 of them were awful, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think in regards to, like, if you look at the larger thing of it, I think there's probably like maybe you count on one and a half hands the amount of like seasons where you go, oh, I don't really want to watch that. Like you'd be a bit like, a bit wary going into it. But I think one of the interesting things, and it was sort of like when you brought up the writers and stuff like that, like the TV writers, I'm still, you brought up Daredevil before, Eric. I'm waiting until Daredevil Born Again comes out, because I think I don't know how many episodes it is, but I think the majority of the writers on the episode are Arrowverse writers.
I think
it's
from Flash and Arrow,
9.
like
really?
Grain Godfrey, I think, is one of the she's written a couple of the episodes, and but like I think majority of the episodes, like just over, are written by
some of
Flash and Arrow writers that were there for years. Like they like that's where they wrote episodes. And
Paigey, I found out some of the stunt people are from Arrow as well. So
well, I mean, the guy that made Daredevil season 1 said he used Arrow as an inspiration. So take that of what you will.
So I'm looking forward to that. So the after party, this is the last one for this year. It will return for Daredevil, which is in March. So, but I'll still be doing our other streams, but the after party specific streams will return with Daredevil. So you go ahead, Darren.
I was just gonna say, like, I thought like that original pitch for Daredevil's, Born Again season 1 was so interesting, because that was originally like this 18 episode season, and I was like, oh man, that's the closest we're probably ever going to get to these, like these like CW shows ever again. And then they're like, no, it's going to be 9, like 2 seasons, 9 episops each. It was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. That's more in line with what we've seen.
I want to give a shout out to Maddie. It was like top 10 speeches from Eric. I appreciate that. That's going to be one that Paigey will have to live with, the fact that he took an L while I was taking a W.
Wait, what was this?
The speech that I just made a minute ago. It's like, so.
Oh, I thought you said top 10 speedsters.
Luther chiming in here, team member at Paigey. What is the likelihood of Eric trying Sprite Cranberry before 2024 ends?
Oh God! As I said, like probably like the likelihood of going to Twitter and seeing a sane West Eleanor. That's probably.
Oh gosh! All right, we got some super chats here. Let's get through these. Staggervore with the $4.99 super chat. I'm a little concerned about the future of DCTV given the recent news that Zaslav is considering splitting up certain assets. I mean, look. David Zaslav is going to do David Zaslav stuff. We just have to hope that Peter Safran and James Gunn are able to hold the ship together, because just like we have to remember, and I think this is becoming more and more clear as time goes on, the CEOs and like executives at the top don't care about all the fandom stuff. They just don't care about it. They care about making money, and whatever they see in terms of making money is the way it's going to go. We have to hope that the creative people who are in charge of their departments can do what they can to hold the ship together. Because I'll be honest, a lot of the stuff that happened in the Arrowverse is because Greg Berlanti worked his ass off to make it happen. Those crossovers, and I think that, like what Cantergraphs was talking about, they've talked in a lot of detail about logistically how much of a nightmare it was to make those things happen. and they still managed to do it. So
one of the biggest ones that was done purely, like they got little to no return on it, but it was purely for the fans, was the musical crossover. They said it was a pain in the ass to do. It took so much time for one episode, not even two. They didn't get an episode of Supergirl. They got one episode.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it in regards to any sort of like major return. But it was done because you had two Glee people as the stars, and you had people that had been on Broadway and or had musical theater upbringing and stuff like that. So it'd be weird not to do it, you know.
That was like three.
Yeah, Music Meister was also Glee.
Yeah, Darren Criss.
Well, no, I meant like Grant and Melissa were heads of Flash and Super.
Oh, you mean because Darren was a guest star. Got it. Yeah. Naruto here with the Darren Criss was on Glee as a regular character, but he's guest starring in the Arrowverse. Yeah. Naruto with another $5 super chat. Started watching Paigey and then Eric, and then around the end of Flash season 2, the beginning of season 3. I think that's kind of the glory days of Arrowverse on YouTube, particularly because if I remember back in the day, there's a period of time where you could like upload clips and trailers. They didn't come after you, and then they just started going crazy. It's
the thing that's sort of like I think a bit disheartening about the transition is that unfortunately, like the Arrowverse in the day, it wasn't just the DCTV stuff that like even if you include like things like Titans and that stuff, it was a community. Like it was a very, I don't want to say it was niche because it's not like there was only like two people. There was like still a broad amount of people. But even if you include like the people that did reaction videos and stuff like that, and they folded in, there was still a decent thing. Now it's just going to be like every man and their dog just trying to get a buck is going to be doing videos on. You know, so it's all covering and whatever. So that's the unfortunate thing is that there's probably not going to be any real form of like everyone sort of knew each other or spoke to each other in some way, shape, or form, or at least, you know, even if you didn't talk to them directly, you knew who they were. You know, like I knew like even when like I was like I think like I can't remember like I don't know, Eric, you might have to refresh my memory because I can't remember to save my fucking life. If we'd ever talked before I did that video where I shouted out your channel, I think we had. But it might have been like a one DM or something. Like
yes, we talked. That I thought you meant on video. Like no, we never did any videos together before that. So but prior to that, we had talked.
With like I think like that first like I don't even know. I think it might have been on your channel, Eric, when we did the stream where it was you, me, Boba. I think Ben was there.
It was the first channel that ever did it was mine because I'm the one that asked everybody.
Each other the first time like a couple of days before that, and then did that stream.
Yeah,
even like Ben, we might not even talk to him. He might have just shown up on that day.
I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but the era of what we're doing now was kind of created by me.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Because the idea of the 4-channel crossover was the beginning of people crossover streaming.
What
in
were
our
you
community.
Using back then? Because StreamYard
OBS, and it was OBS and Skype, I think, or Discord. One of the
other. No, it was Skype to start with. I remember being Skype at the beginning, and then it managed, and then Discord came out shortly after that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm the person that sort of started that whole thing, and then like everyone else is doing it now, and I feel like if there's one contribution that what were you gonna say, 3Dub?
Party Nation spun off from you.
Yeah, well, no, I feel like there's one contribution.
Like honestly, if we were an official thing, we might be suing. But anyway.
Oh yeah. We've been talking to our lawyers about that. But no, I mean, like I honestly, if there's one contribution that I think I had, it was creating this type of environment because I don't think anybody else was doing something like this. People were live streaming, but nobody was doing like.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues is like. And one of the things that always sort of annoyed me doing is everyone said, "Oh, I never criticized the shows," or it's like, bro, like I got like flamed for like saying
I don't think people understand that. We got in so much trouble from the fandom. They're like, "Oh, you're shills." Do you remember the times when I would even criticize a little bit of the Flash? Yeah. I would lose subscribers each time that happened. It was like,
everyone's fine with you criticizing. Everyone's fine with you criticizing, long as it's not the part that they like.
Right. No, this might trigger a memory. Remember when I was like the only one that criticized the Enter Flash Time episode? I said, "Oh, it's sort of an annoying episode because it's not going to be used again." I think I gave it like a 7 out of 10 because it was like, but in its own, it's a good episode. But like as a whole, it's like this.
I would give something a 7 out of 10, and it would be like you would think that I gave it a 1. They're like, I can't believe you gave it a 7 out of 10. I'm like, that's a good score. It's above average. What are we talking about?
You want to know how I was drawn to your channel? Was actually you had like a bright side to the negativity. Like you had like a 50-50. Basically, you told the negative while also giving a positive.
Yeah.
And that felt like more natural to me
Mm.
than just a channel going for the negative, always. The
Yeah.
negative.
Well, I appreciate like the fact that you said that, and I think some other people have said that too. I do appreciate that people understand that like I'm not out here if I don't like something, I won't review it. I always go back to Legends. I was unhappy with Legends. I stopped watching it. I stopped reviewing it. So if I'm reviewing something, it's because I actually enjoy watching
that
it.
was my thing. Like if there was a show that I didn't enjoy watching, like I might review the first episode or try and get like two, but I'm like, if I know I'm not going to, if I'm going into it with like I'm excited, not like a non-excited thing, why would I review it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like unless for some reason it caught me by surprise, but even then I'm probably not watching it straight away. So that's why like I might review Legends, but I was like, and I'm saying with you, like when Legends started to go like after season 3, I was like, oh whatever.
Yeah.
It's just sort of stopped it.
I tried. I couldn't do it though. Naruto here with a $5 super chat. Without the Arrowverse, I don't think modern day comic book TV would exist. I kind of agree with that because I do believe, like Paige, you mentioned that the people that worked on Daredevil cited Arrow as being an inspiration for what they were going to be doing with the show. And on the flip side, I don't think that the Flash would have done the chapters or the graphic novels if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hadn't done it already. So it's one of those things where it's like this like sort of cross sharing of ideas. But when it comes to crossover TV stuff like the Defender show, I don't think the Defender show would have happened if the Arrowverse hadn't done crossovers first.
No,
I don't know. I don't know if the shows on Marvel, like the Daredevil and all that, would have even got their shot if Arrow and Flash weren't prospering for the CW.
Yeah.
One problem I actually saw during like the Arrowverse is like when you have these connected universes, there's going to be stories that are reused and retold in a different way that doesn't like 100% copy and paste, but you kind of get the sense it's the same principle.
Right.
Like, you know, like they carry over stories, which I think is a big problem when you have that many connected, because you kind of like reuse old stories, which kind of gets irritating if you watch all the shows. Right. You're like, hey, didn't I just watch this on the other show?
Cody here with a. Oh wait, Darren, do you want to say something?
No, just that like also like I feel like there wouldn't be much of a like modern DC brand without these shows. Like when these movies couldn't use certain characters, when the movies were, you know, messing around, when, you know, we couldn't get the movie universe moving forward. You had all these shows. We had content again, like 60 episodes of TV every year to keep at least like the identity of these characters in the public eye. I feel like.
Well, I think it probably should be a big thing that like the Warner Brothers people went to Greg Berlanti to potentially be the head of DC before they went to Gunn and Safran. So that should be maybe the thing you remember.
The Arrowverse carried DC for a long time because
movies, 100%.
The movies kept falling flat on their face.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to say here with this. This is the last super chat for now, and we might wrap it up after this if we don't get another one. But Cody with a $5 super chat says the Arrowverse was a kingdom that couldn't be toppled. Look, like Candigraphs was saying, Flash and Arrow were $1 billion deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers when the movies couldn't even crack $1 billion.
I remember. Sorry.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's very clear that there was a reason. Like, I don't even think the Flash movie would have been a thing if the Flash TV show wasn't a success.
I still remember, like, Justice League coming out and people being like, "What the hell is this?" And that same week, Earth X came out, and people were like, "Wait, how are you doing this over here?" And then these low budget TV shows are giving us like the best Justice League movie we've ever seen. Like how are you doing that?
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, that's where we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you so much, Canada Graphs, for jumping on. Hopefully you can be back when we start our after parties next year, and you'll be able to be there for that. Maybe you'll be taking pictures or something at that point. So we'll see.
It doesn't look very likely anytime soon.
Darren Pipeline Podcast, head over and check him out. 3Dub, you can follow his socials, his channel, and check him out on Party Nation each Tuesday, as well as our streams here, which, by the way, Darren and 3Dub are here quite often. So
speaking of like New Year, it's changing from 5:30 to 5, starting in the New Year. because I had personal stuff to take care of, and I want to be there for like an hour, not 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. And Paigey, of course, the person that I started all of this with is still here, even though he went missing and people thought he was arrested for like 7 months. But he's
I
Well,
thought he was dead.
I'm still yet to deny those claims. You never actually properly asked me. But anyway.
oh, okay. Well, maybe
Were
he
you
was
arrested?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, for being way too sexy. But anyway.
Oh,
I knew that was a setup.
so yeah.
But the charges were
Amethyst
dropped, right?
charges were dropped. Amethyst, Team Eric
Fuck,
member.
hold on.
Yeah.
That might be the best comeback ever on the thing. He's done you in
Yeah.
one line, Eric, than you've ever done throughout the entire thing.
Okay. No, this we go. No,
No. I want you. He's giving you probably the biggest L, and I didn't.
That was it. Well, how is that an L for me? The joke was
Because
on
you-
you.
Yeah,
but
you're
I'm
the one he
flipping
said isn't sexy.
Yeah, but I'm flipping it because Eric didn't say it when he had the opportunity to.
Okay, all right. What you should say? What days do I stream? It's been crazy, Amethyst. I've been streaming a lot lately.
Well, Eric.
so
By the way, Zaya, Eric is planning a Diddy focus.
I'm
stream,
not.
but-
Nope. Not doing that. So we do the Nerdcast on Mondays and Thursdays. Those are twice a week. The after party used to be on Tuesdays, but today is the last after party of the year. Up this week, though, Tuesday will be a Arrow Heroes and Villains ranking stream, which was one of the tip goals that we had. And then next weekend will be the fan watch along stream. We're going to watch some fan films. I don't know which day that's going to be. And then on Monday of not this upcoming Monday, but the following Monday will be the Christmas stream where I'll dress up. We hit the goal. I'm going to dress up as Santa Claus for a stream. So that should be.
Why not the Grinch?
That's a lot of Jim Carrey paint.
Well, he also does that every other stream. So
Well, yeah. Well, Jim Carrey said he would come back for the Grinch as long as he didn't have to put on the prosthetics again. So
yeah, but then you probably end up with some like weird thing, like something.
look, there's the picture 3Dub over there. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I do appreciate it. This is gonna be available for playback immediately, and we should have no trouble with this unless something Paigey did got us demonetized, but I don't think that happened today.
Surprisingly, I don't think so.
Yeah, I did get a trailer. I got a trailer from Gamerman. It's a CW preview reel from 2006. But we're gonna watch that. We're gonna watch that on Monday night. We're gonna watch it on Monday because I don't have enough time to like break down all this stuff. But it's hilarious. We'll watch it on Monday night. But thank you so much, Gamerman, for sending it over. I'm gonna keep it on my tab here. Everybody have a good week, and I've got to get ready for work. Thank you guys so much for the super chat, the support, and being here. All the Team Eric members, all the subscribers, you guys make it worth it. And we will see everyone on Monday night for the Nocturnal Nerdcast. So see you then. Bye.